I'm trying to not get overly excited because I just really like what I saw in the spring game.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time. Once again, for Locked On Ducks, I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Plenty coming on today's show because the spring game was awesome. Who were the top standouts? Fallout from the NFL draft. All on today's show, which is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. So, biggest takeaways from the spring game, biggest standouts from the spring game, fallout from the NFL draft. That's how we're attacking today's show. If you think that the number of takes I have on the spring game and those who participated are going to be contained in one show, you're very wrong. You're very, very wrong. But number one takeaway from the spring game, this Oregon roster is really coming together. I mean, the way they've recruited in the last couple cycles, at some level, sure, you should expect this because Oregon's recruited really well. But my biggest takeaway, other than, it was great to watch this new version of the Oregon team. It was great to see the awesome crowd at Autzen. Great job, everybody getting there, over 40,000 strong. I love seeing all of that. The competitive depth that Oregon has at a lot of different spots, I think is phenomenal. There are not a lot of positions. I don't know if there are really any, maybe tight end, where I don't feel like Oregon is 3 to 4 deep with guys who look like plus players, who are capable this year or in the coming years to be all conference caliber players, to be NFL draft selections. Like this is a roster that is young, inexperienced in some ways, but boy, they look the part physically, standing on the field. They look the part flying around, and I thought the game was pretty well balanced. You had the defense make some big plays. You had the offenses make some big plays. And I think that's just reflective of where this roster is at. They split these teams up not into ones and twos, but into the Fighting Ducks and the Combat Ducks. And, one team gets to win 24-20, but I walked away going, that felt like a pretty evenly matched game. It felt like there were reps won by one side in a position group and then reps won by another side in a position group. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing because that means that the talent is developing, that it is coming along, that young guys that are going to have to play key roles for this football team this fall look like they're really prepared to do so. And that I think that was awesome. It was really, really great. I think the only spot maybe, I could say probably, where I don't feel like the depth is as strong as some other spots is tight end. We didn't see a ton of Jamari Johnson. He lost a one-on-one rep in the end zone to Trey McNutt. Vander Plug had a couple of really nice catches, the true freshman. We didn't see Roger Saliapaga out there, I don't believe, but I certainly think that he's an intriguing player himself as a converted wide receiver, but coming off an injury from last year, he wasn't the only Duck that was banged up and didn't play in this game. But, Vander Plug also from a blocking standpoint might have a little bit of a ways to go. I think that's the only group that I didn't see multiple high-end level guys or plays being made throughout the course of the day. So that was big takeaway number one. Big takeaway number two. Holy smokes, the quarterbacks looked awesome. They all looked awesome. I mean, I'll just talk about the guys that actually have a chance. Brock Thomas made a great throw down the field too. I mean, he did a great high school career, so I wasn't that surprised. But let's keep it to the guys that we know are going to be a factor now and in the future. That's Dante Moore, Austin Novosad, Luke Moga, Achilles Smith Jr. How much happier could you feel about the quarterbacks coming out of this game? Ask yourself that question. If you watch the whole thing, which you should, if you haven't, go to Big Ten Plus and watch the whole thing back. And tell me how you could feel better about the quarterbacks. I didn't see any disastrous reads. I saw a lot of really good reads. I saw a lot of high-level throws. Achilles Smith Jr. looked awesome as a true freshman in his first spring game. DeCorian Moore looked really good. I was really, really encouraged by so many things. But the development of Luke Moga might have been the biggest takeaway of all. I mean, this is night and day from what I have been told, from what we had seen, what he was coming out of high school. The progression here was staggering to me. Luke Moga looked better in that spring game than Ty Thompson ever did in a spring game. And Ty Thompson had some moments. But Moga looked like a completely different player in the pocket. And he is a freak athlete, man. This is not hyperbole. See how excited I am talking about the quarterbacks? I'm stumbling over my words. This is not hyperbole. Luke Moga is the best athlete at the quarterback position Oregon has had since Marcus Mariota. There was a run where he pulled it on an RPO, didn't force it because the defense took his reads away, and he just sprinted around the edge, and I think it was a first down carry. Like, he is so fast. He is so fast. But the question was, hey, is he going to develop as a passer? Is he going to progress? Because he was raw in high school. The early reports from practice, he's got a ways to go. Boy, didn't look like it there. He was throwing dimes all over the field. Dante Moore, Austin Novosad were both about what I expected, which is good, by the way. And Achilles Smith Jr. didn't look like a true freshman playing in, the biggest moment of his young college career. Didn't look like it to me. Looked like a guy that was ready to go. He was elusive. He threw the ball down the field. I was so blown away in some respect with those two guys. And then Dante Moore and Austin Novosad, they look good. I thought they both looked good. So the competitive depth at quarterback, someone pointed out to me a while back when I was asking, when does a third string quarterback come into play? Ohio State 2014. All right. Someone pointed out that Masoli at one point was a fifth string quarterback. I think that's right. He was pretty low on the depth chart. I think Justin Roper was maybe the fifth guy. I don't know. But that's the last time Oregon went that deep into the depth chart to find a starting quarterback. But those guys all looked really, really sharp to me. I was impressed. So that was big takeaway number 2. Big takeaway number 3. I loved the trench play. Loved the trench play. Going back to what I said earlier about the competitive depth, I felt like there were stretches where the defensive line certainly took over. And if you look at the stats in this game, the defensive line dominated. I don't think it was quite that dominated by the defensive line. I give the advantage to that group, which is what I expect. Offensive lines are at a severe disadvantage in this sort of spring game format because you have guys playing together. I think the closest unit to a starting 5 that I saw out there was a Janoris Wilson, Isaiah World, Poncho, Matthew Bedford, Kavika Rogers. That could be a 5 that sees the field at some point this year. But overall, is that the first 5? No. So that makes it tougher to go up against a defensive line that is just stacked with talent all over the place. But I thought the trench play was really good. There were running lanes created. There were running plays that were stopped by the defensive line. There was pressure on the quarterback. Then there was time to throw. I thought it was incredibly balanced, and I didn't think it was because neither side is going to be any good. I thought it's because both sides have the ability to be really good. The highest grade I gave out for a position group going into this defense or going into this spring game was the defensive line, and it's an A-. And I don't think, I'll just give you a peek ahead at a future segment here on the show, I'm not going to be coming off of that. I might even be raising that up. The defensive line, the way that Oregon recruited that position group in the first couple of cycles, it's paying off right here, right now, because there are a lot of young guys that are ready to contribute, and man, they looked really, really good. But the offensive line also gave the quarterbacks chances to take shots down the field, also opened up running lanes so the backs could showcase what they can do. So those are my 3 biggest takeaways. The competitive depth across the board, except maybe at tight end. All 4 of the quarterbacks I thought looked great. And the line of scrimmage, I think, has a chance to be a strength again for this Oregon team on both sides of the ball, as it was a year ago, particularly along that defensive line. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all that good stuff. Still so much more to get to. I can't wait for this week of shows. I'm really excited. I might sit down. I'm not going to. It's late at night. But I might sit down and just do an entire week of shows right now. I could. There's so much to discuss, but that's what the rest of the week is for. Individual standouts were hard to pick because a lot of guys played well, but I picked some anyway. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And if you want to bet anything related to Oregon, you can do that. Their win total is sitting there at 10.5, which I've been preaching the under on that all off season. And after the spring game, I'm kind of going, maybe not. Maybe over. Maybe it's a stay away. I don't know. Depending on your feeling about it, you can go either way when you check them out at FanDuel.com. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com. Claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Not tomorrow, today. Check them out at FanDuel.com. So fired up, I didn't even need that second segment sip. I'm kidding. I always need one every single day. Can't function without it. So, who got more playing time because of the spring game? Well, I can go a lot of different directions here. But the three guys that stood out the most to me, who seem like they're going to be able to see the field in some capacity, I don't know how big of a capacity, but guys that are going to be playing more. That's the way I wanted to look at this particular segment, and so we shall. Let me start with the number one guy, and some of this is absolutely based on the position the guys are playing. Is there actually an avenue towards seeing the field? Biggest guy that earned playing time to me, Jericho Johnson, in the middle. This is an interior defensive line that just lost Derek Harmon, number 21 overall pick to the Steelers, Jamari Caldwell, third-round pick to the Chargers, and they brought in Bear Alexander, and they brought in Amari Washington, and those are the two starters to replace last year's guys, but who fills the Amari Washington role? Does Oregon get back to playing four defensive tackles? Now, Aiden Breland was in a boot for this game, unfortunately. I have not heard anything to indicate that, Breland, who was a really highly rated recruit himself, is going to, be in danger of missing any time for fall camp and leading up to the season. It is a good reminder why having the competitive depth I talked about earlier at every position that you can matters so much. You never want to be, and this is part of my position group evaluations as well, and why I'll be probably doubling down on the one at some point that I gave the lowest grade out to. You never want to be in a position where one injury makes an entire position group just completely inept or incapable, or you suffer this severe drop-off. Certainly, there's going to be a decline. It's why someone's ahead of another one. But this defensive line, man, there are so many guys. Everywhere you look, it's great. But Jericho Johnson in the middle of that defense, if Aiden Breland is the third defensive tackle, and he could very well be, Jericho Johnson might be the fourth. This is a guy who was pretty highly rated coming out of high school. Washington and a couple other schools were after him. And, he was someone that had weight questions coming out that, maybe was a little bit too heavy and needed to get down. Well, as Dan Lanning told me at Big Ten Media Days last year, the line of scrimmage is not typically a spot where guys are ready to play as true freshmen, and they like guys to sit there and develop for a couple of years. We see that all over this roster. I know people that are active on Twitter out there are aware that the question of development at Oregon comes up quite a bit. They are, in fact, quite good at it. And you look across this defense, there are a lot of guys who have been sitting for 1 or 2 years that are now ready to take that leap. I thought Jericho Johnson looked like a cross between Jamari Caldwell and Jordan Scott. I think he looked like a thinner Jordan Scott, a little bit more agile. The way that, the play that stood out the most to me with him, I don't remember who was running the ball. It was either Dier Hill, who had a nice day, and Jay Harris, who had an okay day at running back. They were full speed, whoever it was. He was full speed, running into the second level, and all of a sudden he just hit a brick wall. And that brick wall wasn't the chest of Jericho Johnson. That was his right arm. He was still kind of latched onto an offensive lineman. He just reached out, stopped a guy, made the play. He did that a couple of times, and he was just really active overall and disruptive. And that's the best thing that, you can say about interior defensive linemen sometimes. You're not always going to rack up huge stats the way the edge players can. Mateo racked up 10.5 sacks last year, tied for 8th in the country, led the Big Ten. You don't really get that a lot from interior guys. You just want to see activity and disruption. And we got that a lot last year with Derek Harmon and Jamari Caldwell. Jericho Johnson was disruptive on Saturday on more than one occasion, particularly against the run. Now, as a pass rusher, I thought Terrence Green did a little bit more, but Johnson looked like somebody who, in his second year could be ready to go. There are a lot of guys that could be ready to go, but he was someone to me that because of the position group he's at, remember last year they played 3 defensive tackles, Harmon, Caldwell, and Washington, and thank goodness they stayed healthy all throughout the year. But the year before, they were playing 4. It was Dorless, Popo, Casey Rogers, and Taki Taimani. I wonder if last year they didn't feel like anyone was ready to be that 4th guy, or if the 3 in front of them were just so good that they wanted to give him as many snaps as possible. Don't know. But I'd watch out for Jericho Johnson. I thought he had an awesome game. I don't think Pro Football Focus does grades on spring games because it's not, technically a game. His PFF grade would have been really high, at least from what I saw in the game. So that's one. Another guy, Trey McNutt. Pass breakup in the end zone in a one-on-one with Jamari Johnson, who's a third-year player. I'm always impressed when true freshmen can make an impact in this sort of game right away because it's hard going up against college kids. I'm particularly impressed when you go up against someone who's had several years of experience. Now, Jamari Johnson at tight end is not the most experienced guy necessarily. It's still his third year of college ball. Trey McNutt looked really good. He made a couple of plays around the ball. He made the play on the back end, and I've been looking for better safety play from the Ducks really since Dan Lanning arrived. It has been consistently one of, if not the weakest area of the defense over the last several years. It just has been. Doesn't mean there haven't been guys who do some good things. On the whole, has not been a plus position. Since Verone McKinley left, the run of safeties for Oregon has not been very good. Dylan Thieneman, the Purdue transfer, he didn't do a ton in this game. I think that's because he was mostly taking guys away over the top. But who starts opposite him? I don't know. Maybe it's Trey McNutt. Maybe it's Kingston Lopa. There's an opportunity there. I thought McNutt held his own and then some in this game. I was noticing his impact pretty consistently, and he again is at a position where snaps can be available because there's no way, okay, there's a way, maybe. I can't see a way that anyone's locked, like deadlocked, into that other starting safety spot opposite Dylan Thieneman. So I put McNutt in there as someone who definitely could have earned playing time because of how he showed up on Saturday. And then I'll go offense for the third one, Dylan Gresham. Whoa. Now, his path to playing time isn't particularly easy because there's so many guys in that receiver room who are so incredibly good. It's one of the deepest rooms on the team. And position group, I mean. They're a group who I gave a B+ overall grade to. Going into the spring game, it was the second highest grade that I gave out, and boy, Gresham looked really good. It wasn't just the long slant that he took for a touchdown. I liked even more the throw from Moga was a thing of beauty. Oh my gosh, it was so good. But Gresham had a little separation on the sideline, didn't push off, tracked the ball, made a contested catch going to the ground. It's good coverage. It was good coverage. Just a better throw and catch. And I thought that I believe he had the most receiving yards of anybody on either side of the ball for the Ducks, and I was really, really happy. He had he had 3 for he had 3 for 96 and a touchdown. Kenny and Sadiq had 7 catches for 102 yards. That guy is so incredibly good. So It was a great Saturday. There were a lot of great things that stood out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. By the way, I should have mentioned this at the top of the show. Oregon baseball swept number 3 Oregon State. First time in program history, Oregon baseball has swept a top 5 team. Their best series of the year by far. They've had their ups and downs, but they were number 16 going into that series. They're going to be ranked a lot higher than that come next week. And the bullpen and the pitching staff was as good as you could have possibly asked for. The bats did enough. They exploded in game 2. I hope that is a season-defining moment. But that contributed to an overall great Saturday for the Ducks. You didn't just sweep a top 5 team. It was the Beavs. And who doesn't like doing that? So, yeah, overall, lots of good stuff. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Absolutely loved it. So, going to take a pause from the spring game. I'm going to get back to that literally all throughout the week. I have so many thoughts that I jotted down as I was watching it on Sunday after my last Southern Utah broadcast of the year. The NFL draft saw a record 10 Ducks selected, and I have a couple of important thoughts. First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Up to 60%. I've used Game Time for a sporting event. I've used Game Time for a comedy show. And the experience was great. Got a great deal. Got the ticket on my phone. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Event went off without a hitch. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. And download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price. Guaranteed. Okay, first thought. Of importance, as I mentioned, with Oregon getting 10 guys drafted, it was the 4th most in college football. Only ones with more: Georgia, Ohio State, Texas. Pretty good. So in Dan Lanning's 3rd year, he's in the ballpark of getting the same number of guys drafted as the heavy hitters in college football. Even for Oregon, that's pretty good. Setting a program record with 10 guys drafted, that's pretty good. I think from a recruiting standpoint, that doesn't do anything but help you. That's the biggest thing that happens on draft day is recruits across the country, crystallize in their mind, whatever position they're playing. Hey, look, that guy went to Oregon and now he's going here. Hey, if I go to Oregon and they sell me on a visit of the NFL potential, they're not just talking about it, they're doing it. So that's first thing. Second thing. I mentioned this a long time ago on the show, and I'm coming back to it because this is kind of what I expected. A friend asked me, hey, how many Ducks do you think get drafted? I said, set the over-under at 8.5. Hits the over. That was my personal over-under, not FanDuel's over-under. That was Spencer Sportsbook, which is a mythological entity, but you can keep dreaming about it. It'd be really fun. Anyway, so the fact that they got 10 guys drafted crystallized the thought I had many, many months ago after Oregon's embarrassing loss in the Rose Bowl. Yes, that team could have won the national championship. And the number of draft picks identifies just that. How about this, too? Josh Connerly went 29th overall to the Commanders. Derek Harmon, 21st overall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. How often does Oregon have 2 guys drafted in the first round who are both trench players? Remember, DeForest Buckner came out a year after Eric Armstead. They were both selected in the top 10. Like, the work that Lanning and the staff have done to upgrade Oregon's recruiting, to, yes, develop the players and make them ready to go to the NFL has been awesome. Think about where Josh Connerly was as a freshman. Yeah, he was a top-rated offensive tackle. Guess what? Few guys, if any, are good enough to play as true freshmen. Penei Sewell is such a unicorn, it's actually insane. Legitimately insane. Even highly rated recruits, though, have to be developed. They're not ready for the NFL unless their names are Jeremiah Smith. That's basically the only example. So for Oregon to get these guys into the positions that they were in, where 10 of them got drafted and a solid number of them were in the later rounds, still, there were a lot of talented players who didn't get drafted, and plenty of Ducks signed as undrafted free agents as well. Marcus Harper did, or Nishad Strother. There were camp invites. There were all sorts of names for, guys like Nico Reed, Jabbar Muhammad. I think that what Oregon accomplished in this draft is solidifying, they are capable of putting together a roster that goes out and wins a national championship. This staff is good enough to do that because they will bring in high school kids, recruit them in the long run. They can bring in portal guys and elevate them. They can find the right portal guys who might already be close to finished products. Like, I won't sit here and gaslight you into saying, Oregon developed Derek Harmon so well. Nah, he was the best defensive lineman in Michigan State too. And you know what? Oregon went out and got him. Why? Brand power and NIL are really strong. That's a good thing. Don't let anybody online sell you into that being a negative. It's not. It's an absolute positive. So I think that for this draft, it went very well for Oregon. And the more guys get drafted, I also am just a sucker for rooting for #ProDucks. I will say the one thing I hated about this draft is Ducks kept getting drafted to teams I don't want to root for. Terrence Ferguson goes in the second round. Kenny Sadiq could get drafted higher than him next year. Sadiq is so good. Terrence Ferguson gets drafted in the second round, and it's to the Rams. It's to the why did it have to be to the Rams? Why to the Rams? Is it a great system for him? Yeah, it's perfect. But dang it, I don't want to root for him on the Rams. I'm a Seahawks fan. I need the Rams to stink. So that, and then Jordan Birch went to the Cardinals, and Jeff Bossa went to the Chiefs, and I don't like the Chiefs. Like, it was just one. Jordan James went to the 49ers. I'm going, goodness gracious, almost half the draft picks are on teams that I don't want to root for. Everybody else, though, it's all good. So I think the draft went really well. I wanted to close with this because I know this was, shall we say, a discoursing topic amongst Oregon fans. And really the entire college football world. Shedeur Sanders fell to the 5th round. He went to the Cleveland Browns. Dillon Gabriel was selected in the 3rd round. I thought those two things would be kind of flip-flopped. I thought Shedeur would be, not a 3rd round pick, but doesn't sound like the interviews went particularly well. I don't know. I wasn't there. That's just what reporters are indicating. So Gabriel was selected way higher than I thought he was for a guy of his stature. I'm rooting for him. Make no mistake about it. I think he was overdrafted. When he got selected, I had some Oregon fans message me, dude, Gabriel in the 3rd round, it's awesome. And I said, yeah, it's like I'm stoked for him, rooting for the guy. I always root for the little guy in every single sport. Like I always have, always will, because I am the little guy. If you haven't met me in person, I am not physically imposing, okay? I don't look imposing with my face. I am, 27 going on 18, and physically there's nothing intimidating about me unless you see me hit a golf ball. Then it's a little intimidating. But I just, when I got the messages from people, oh dude, Gabriel got drafted, my response, which got played out with the Shedeur Sanders pick, was what was accurate, and that was, I hate that he went to Cleveland. It's a crap organization. They've been a crap organization. They're a dumpster fire. They're somehow worse than the other pro sports teams that I root for. They are worse. They're terrible. And then they took Shedeur in the 5th round. So now what? Those two are going to battle it out for the starting job? I don't know. I'm stoked DG got drafted for the season that he had with Oregon this past year. And he's an awesome guy and a really hard worker and just a good leader and a great dude. Hope he finds a way to succeed and outperform my expectations for him in the NFL. I hate that he went to Cleveland. Absolutely hate. Everybody else, I think he's in a really good spot. Jordan James with the Niners, awesome. Tez Johnson with the Bucks, I think could be a good fit. Johnny Cornelius went to the Cowboys. They care about the offensive line a lot. Derek Harmon to the Steelers. They have a strong defensive culture. Josh Connerly to the Commanders. He's now on a good team and he's protecting a great quarterback. So many good fits. T. Ferg to the Rams is a great fit. Jordan Birch could go anywhere and do well. But man, the quarterback going to the Browns, that stinks. I think that stinks. And I would love more than anything, more than the whole Shedeur saga, which I will say I got a pretty big kick out of because of what's happened in the last couple of years. If Dillon Gabriel winds up being the Browns starter in a quarterback room with Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, himself, and Shedeur Sanders, then that'd be pretty great. Not expecting it, but hey, I didn't expect him to get taken in the 3rd round. So if you have draft questions that are lingering on your mind, hit me up. I'm always down to talk a little #ProDucks. So we'll leave it there for today. Plenty more spring football talk coming this week. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.